Welcome to Cyber Conversations, the show where it's okay to agree to disagree. Today, we are talking about The Incredible Hulk. It's me and Bob, and Bob's son Matthew is here. And this was the second movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Some people would think that it isn't actually officially part of the MCU. It's definitely more disconnected than the later ones were. And we'll talk about that, but part of it is because it wasn't done specifically by Marvel Studios. This was still before Disney had bought Marvel anyway, but this was a Universal production, and Kevin Feige had basically, from my understanding, he had proposed the idea to them, provided some story points, said what he wanted, and his plan was he would help them produce it, but have minimal input. So it was mostly their story and their profit. But in return, they would let Kevin Feige use the Incredible Hulk in a substantial role in the Marvel movies going forward, especially team ups with the Avengers. And of course, I'm glad they did because I'm a huge Avengers fan.
Did rights to the Hulk go back to Disney?
I don't
never.
know. I don't think so. I think Universal still owns it. Matthew, you were going to say.
Yeah, Universal. I think it was a YouTube video a couple of years ago, and they talked about why it's so hard to get the Hulk his own solo movie. It's why we haven't had a proper sequel. Universal owns the rights despite Disney owning Marvel. There's something to do with the western and eastern side of the country too. I can't
Well,
quite
that
remember the video's direct phrasing, but they said it has something to do. There's a divisional line in the
at the
geography of
Mississippi.
America. Yeah, and Universal owns the East Coast superheroes, which includes the Hulk, to my knowledge. I don't know
I don't know about
the
movie
others.
rights, but I do know that extends to theme park rights. As long as Universal is operating Marvel Studios theme parks,
Hmm.
anything to do with them in their parks, and as long as they aren't visibly mismanaging it,
Yep.
then they own the rights in perpetuity. It doesn't end. That's why Marvel Superheroes Island exists at Universal Islands of Adventure.
Well, that's
Yep.
true.
And Disney is not allowed to build a theme park with Marvel characters that are owned, I
Right.
think, by, I'm not sure if it's, well, obviously they can have rides based on Universal characters within the Disney umbrella, such as Guardians of the Galaxy, because there is a Guardians at Walt Disney World. But as long as there is a theme park operating on the East Coast, Disney can't touch it.
Hmm.
It was a very interesting video essay that I watched, and it went into that. And that's why they have the Spider-Man ride over at Islands of Adventure. They
Hmm.
have the Doctor Doom ride, and those will never go away. And it's something to do
Yeah.
with the Mississippi line. So
Yeah.
fascinating. But Universal, as far as I know, still owns the rights to the Hulk character,
Yeah.
which is why we've not gotten a proper sequel from Disney. So,
And I think it's somewhat a shame because the character can do more. There was talk for a while of them doing I think a three movie arc that was going to include Planet Hulk and World War Hulk adaptations, which I
The
would love
planet,
to see.
yeah, the Planet Hulk thing I know has come up every couple of years.
Yeah. And
Um,
they talk about doing at least that and World War Hulk because the two go together. That would definitely be really cool. But on the other hand, there's so many other things that I would love to see as well. I they kind of did it a little bit in the second Carnage movie. What was it? Carnage, Let There Be
let's
Blood.
let there be
Oh,
carnage.
Let There Be Carnage. Yes. I would like them to do a full adaptation of Maximum Carnage. They kind of did with Let There Be Carnage because they had Shriek in it. But, to see a full Maximum Carnage thing with Carnage and Shriek and Carrion and the Spider-Man doppelganger, who I would love to see in a Spider-Man movie.
That would require Sony to be
Yeah,
a a
they would have to
competent
work.
studio. Yeah.
Well, also, they would have to work very heavily with the Marvel Studios because Marvel I mean, there's a lot of characters that Marvel owns
Hmm.
still that would be in that. So I don't imagine that's going to happen anytime soon.
No. But with the Hulk, I remember this came out the same year as Iron Man 1. I remember seeing it. I remember being excited by the trailer. Because the last one we got was the 2003 Eric Bana, Ang Lee movie, and I did not like that even as a kid. It
Yeah.
scared me in some places that it probably shouldn't have scared you, especially when he
I
fights the power cord. But the 2008 one I thought was a great revival of the character. It's the type of character we don't get anymore either in the
it
modern
definitely
film age. Go ahead.
It, no, no, I didn't mean to. I was just I was losing my thought, but yeah, you're right. I actually noticed on Netflix yesterday that Hulk, the Ang Lee one, is available. I think it's leaving soon, and I was tempted to watch it just so that I would be able to talk a little bit about it today to compare it,
We
but
don't
I
need to
couldn't.
talk about it. We don't need to talk
Yeah,
about it at all.
that's all I remember about it is that we don't need to talk about it. And I mean, not for nothing, it also has nothing to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It
Right.
predates it. It's not part of it.
This Incredible Hulk movie, and I think Matthew said it, and I agreed. It took, I watched it over the course of like 2 days, and I finished it yesterday. And like, Matthew made the comment when we were talking, kind of prepping up for the podcast, and it was like, Matthew's like, the movie's held up really well. I thought the movie held up really well. Like, I think it's more, I don't want to say relevant, but it's more like a movie like now, it's definitely outside of the way Marvel's been making these things and how they've gone more comedy and everything else. I mean, it was a little more grounded and that type of thing. But I thought I this is literally the third time I think I've watched it, maybe, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, wow, this is not that I didn't enjoy it the first time around, but I was like, wow, it just hits different.
In some ways, I think it's extremely good. I do agree that it is less connected, and part of that is because it's universal, but part of it is also because there aren't as many references for it to, they aren't available to it. Like Thor hadn't been made yet, so they couldn't really address
No,
that.
we didn't have Captain
And
America.
Captain America hadn't been made, nothing else existed except Iron Man, and we did get an Iron Man reference because Tony Stark appears in it
Hmm.
briefly, but it does connect. And of course, later on, it wouldn't be until Civil War, but other characters from the Hulk showed up in the MCU,
Hmm.
especially Thunderbolt Ross. And of course, we've seen the Abomination once or twice since then as well. And the leader.
Yeah,
It
the
took
leader.
forever. It took for freaking ever, but I was very happy to see the leader.
Well, it was the same
As I've
actor.
Yeah, and yeah, it's the same actor. Something that we mentioned before, but just in case people forgot, we're going. Our plan is to do the Marvel Cinematic Universe up through Spider-Man No Way Home, and then we'll cut it off there, so we won't be including Captain America: Brave New World. But that's the one. Spoiler alert. That's the one where the leader returns, and that was one of the things that made me the happiest. I enjoyed that movie. I enjoyed it a lot, and part of what I liked so much was seeing the leader return, played by Tim Blake Nelson. That's his name, right?
Yep.
And yeah, it was done well. I mean, there were certain things about the leader, especially his appearance, that I don't know if I was completely on board with, but the storyline was good and it made sense. So I enjoyed that. I was very happy to see the leader return. We'll talk more about him when we get to that, but he's an important character here too, even though he wasn't the leader yet.
It was nice. It was like having referencing different Marvel movies, somehow bouncing around the Hulk, but it was like having Dr. Connors in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, where you thought he
Hmm.
was going to be the lizard and he wasn't. So, and
Yeah.
we never got that. So it was nice, I agree, to have the leader show up, design aside, and not at all
Although
comic accurate. But no, I mean the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk movie. I liked Edward Norton. I thought he was a great Bruce Banner. I liked him
Yeah, he
certainly
was he
better
was
than
good.
Eric. I liked him better than Eric Bana, and I
well,
definitely
yeah.
like him better than Mark Ruffalo, which might be a hot take for some people
I think
that listen. But I thought he captured the smart man aspect of the character rather than being just a nerd. How they portrayed him in the Avengers, because Bruce Banner's a smart guy, scientist.
yeah.
I don't know. He felt more sciencey than he felt more like geeky or nerdy, like than he felt in the Avengers movie.
I'm not sure how hot a take it is because I think most people would agree, and I agree, that Edward Norton is a better actor. And I hate saying that, like, in case Mark Ruffalo is listening. He's not. But if he was, I think that Mark Ruffalo is a tremendous actor. But between the two, I think that Edward Norton is probably the better actor.
Yeah, I think he's a better actor. I think Bruce Banner's a hard character to get right. And coming back to my first point, the Hulk is not a character we see anymore. Um, Dad, I know you and I have talked about this in the past. The Macho Man action star type of movies, they don't exist in modern film anymore when you think about it. Like you look at Jean-Claude Van Damme, you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, the
The
Hulk,
Expendables.
the Expendables, sure. Even that's 15 years old at this point, but
But it was an homage to those
sh
old action stars.
sure. But the Hulk n- with the Lou Ferrigno show back in the 80s, I think it's the 80s,
70s.
70s. Well, he had his movies in the 80s too, right?
They may have extended to that, but I know that the show was in the 70s because I was still a very young kid.
You just don't see movies about uncontrollable rage monsters or, Macho Man movies in the modern film era. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's what makes this film, The Incredible Hulk, so different, I think, as well. And it's probably why we've not seen a sequel, is the demand for it, whether it's there or not, is minimal.
Yeah, you're probably right. I would love to see a sequel or, something. Well, as we mentioned before, I think there was talk of them making a three-movie arc featuring the Hulk, which would have been based on the comics of World War Hulk and Planet Hulk,
Hmm.
actually in the reverse order, right? Planet Hulk came first.
Yes.
And there was a third one, and I forgot what that was called. But I would have loved to see that. I still would, but I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah. And Disney's retconned any hope for that with Professor Hulk,
Yeah.
post Infinity War, which I know pissed a lot of people off that were fans of the Hulk. And I know we were talking about Thor and Captain America not even being released yet up until the point of this movie coming out. The Hulk was a very, I think, important character up until the MCU. Like you go back and you look at superhero memorabilia or comic book memorabilia, the Hulk's plastered all over it, front and center, in a lot of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think that's probably why they chose this character as the second film, even if it felt different from Iron Man and the rest of them. That would be my
Well, yeah, and
guess.
it is important to note that especially before the Marvel, frenzy that was started with Iron Man, before all of that, the most popular characters in Marvel were Spider-Man always
Hmm.
was the most popular, and Hulk was also very, very popular, probably due to his presence in the public more than anyone else.
Hmm.
Spider-Man was the most popular, but he was also the most visible
Hmm.
and probably the most relatable because of who he is. He's a kid.
Hmm.
But the Hulk was also very popular because of the Bill Bixby led TV show. Captain America didn't have much of a presence. There was a movie at some point with him and Thor, I think, but it was terrible and no one cared.
It was an Incredible Hulk episode with Daredevil and Thor in it.
Hmm.
Right, right. But didn't Captain America also get something
He
in
got a
the
Yeah, they
movie.
movie?
they did a Captain America movie which was supposed to be released in theaters, and it was a direct to video with the Red Skull. And then they also did the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie, and those were
Yeah.
back early '90s.
And Captain America, even when I was a kid, I remember wanting to learn more about him. And as we mentioned back when we started the MCU, I didn't know that much about Marvel characters other than Spider-Man and the Hulk until about just a few years before Iron Man came out, because a friend of mine at the time, one of my best friends, was very, very well versed, and he used to talk about it, and I would ask him about the characters that I was intrigued by, and that's how I learned about them. But even as a kid, I thought I wanted to learn more about Captain America because I thought I would identify with him more than the other characters. So,
Uh,
getting back to the Hulk, which we were planning to talk about today.
I would say it's kind of a plain movie in terms of narrative and story. It's not anything terribly complex. I do like the opening setting where he's in Brazil. I think it's Brazil, and
Yeah,
he's speaking Portuguese, I
he's
believe.
learning
Learning
Portuguese. Yeah.
Portuguese, and he's learning how to manage the anger. It's very, I hope I'm saying this phrase right, in media res, where they just place you into the action.
Yeah,
It's not
well,
an origin story.
that's
Well, you
It's
get
actually
the
something.
origin through the opening credits,
sure.
Yeah, I was going to
just a
mention
little
that.
bit.
That's one of the things that set it apart from these early MCU movies, which most of them were origin stories of a
Hmm.
sort. I mean, Thor, it's his origin as a superhero, but it isn't the birth of Thor. Well, sort of. It has him as a kid too, but the point is that is definitely an origin story. Iron Man is an origin story. Captain America is. This one, it isn't. The origin story all happens during the opening credits.
Which is different and feels different, but it also allows for the story to take place very quickly. And not that the origin of the Hulk is terribly complex. He gives himself gamma
Yeah,
radiation,
yeah.
and that's it. And now when he gets angry, he's the Hulk. So, as thin as the plot is, not thin, but simple. We'll call it simple. As simple as the plot is, I think it's a very fun action movie. The villain's very clear, and even the secondary villain with Thaddeus
Ross.
Ross
Yeah,
is very apparent. But I thought they captured Abomination really, really well, and even the human counterpart with Blonsky.
yeah.
I thought that was, I mean, I forget his name. Who
Tim
played him?
Roth.
Tim
Tim Roth.
Roth. He
Yeah.
Yeah.
played him really, really well, and it was I thought it was a deep villain for the time. Maybe not now, but at the time, it was more depth than Obadiah Stane, which we had a problem with
Well,
last time.
yeah. He still didn't have a whole lot to him. He's a fighter and he wants to always be a fighter.
Sure.
And that's pretty much it. That's his whole reason for going after the Hulk is because he wants a fight. And that's why he becomes the Abomination is
Hmm.
because he wants a fight. But yeah, no, what I was saying before, you're right. It has the feeling of an N media res movie, though it isn't exactly because it isn't being told. Like you aren't seeing something happen and then going back before that and then going after. It has the feeling of N media res, but it isn't technically N media res.
Right.
Uh,
But you're just
but
being placed into the
yeah,
action, I guess is what I'm
there's
trying to
no
say.
origin. But I also think that's very wise. They've done it since then a couple of times, including Spider-Man. And they started doing it with Batman finally because people were getting tired of origin stories simply because the same characters keep getting made into movies, and every single one of them was another origin story. We got it with Superman the movie, then we got it with Man of Steel, we got it with the Batman Begins, and we've seen Bruce Wayne's parents die how many times now? Six times, I think, between the TV shows and the movies and the video games.
Hmm.
Everyone knows how that happened. Everyone knew how the Hulk got formed. Everyone knows how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. So Hulk was a perfect example of a director, recognizing I could tell an origin story, but everyone knows it. No one wants to see that. So let's just skip over it. He did a very, very brief rundown of what happened in the opening credits. And you learn everything that you need to know if you pay attention during those credits, which I admit the first time I saw the movie, it felt very disjointed. That opening credit scene where they
Hmm.
talk about or where they show the origin story, it kind of felt disjointed, but I paid more attention since then. And if you really watch it, it's all in order of events and you see the whole thing happening.
You don't get those types of credits anymore either. I
Yeah.
mean, even with Iron Man, right? You didn't get a credit scene. We talked about it. It opens immediately with the page flipping sounds and then AC/DC, where this kind of had that Michael Keaton, Tobey Maguire opening credits theme.
Yeah, but Iron Man was also an origin story. It would have
Right.
been weird. But like Iron Man 2, they do reference the first movie, which is similar to that. It's similar to like Superman and Superman 2. Superman the movie, there's nothing to tell beforehand. So the
Hmm.
credits take place in space and you just see the credits flying toward you. In Superman 2, they show a whole bunch of scenes from the first movie to
Right.
remind the audience this is what happened in the last movie. They don't do that so much anymore because now they expect the audience to kind of follow up.
I think that with the origin stories, what I've noticed is that like, with the Incredible Hulk, yeah, you're right. It's like gamma radiation. He was doing some testing. It went bad. It's a story that can be told very quickly, and you don't need to dwell on it. Yes, we've seen Bruce Wayne's parents die. We've seen Spider-Man get bit by the Peter Parker get bit by
Radioactive
a
spider.
radioactive spider. Now, the thing is I think the reason that they keep rehashing that is for that character, that iteration. Like I'm thinking of the Tobey Maguire versus the Andrew Garfield version, right? They each handle it in different ways and it's presented a different way. And I think that's why they keep redoing it. Batman the
Yeah,
same way. Sure, you see him get shot. Some of it's a little more artsy fartsy or different type or whatever else, but it's like the impact of that iteration of the character's story arc leading up to it. And yeah, there's somewhere like you were mentioning Thor where it comes back, yeah, it showed him as kids, but it was just really flashbacks. And just to kind of that was more building the relationship with Odin and building
and
relationship between
Loki.
Thor and Loki and that type of thing. So I think there's a number of ways they do it, but I still don't totally discount. Yes, it's like, oh my God, how many times I got to see Bruce Wayne's parents get shot in an alley type of thing, or however they present it. But I think that they do it to show relevance because it does tie together for that particular person
Of
playing the
course,
role to the storyline. So I mean, but you're
I'm not
right. Is
saying
Incredible Hulk is 100%. I mean, I did. I should have notated it and I was going to try and remember it, but my ADHD helps it. I don't. So, but like, I remember in the Bill Bixby version, it was like he was trying to tap into like the adrenaline that other people had had. And he was trying to like unlock, that was the premise, was he was trying to unlock these abilities like lifting up a car when it's on your child to save them. It's like these people have these superhuman feats and he was trying to tap into that. In this one it was just purely testing like gamma radiation on a
yeah,
person or something like
gamma resistance.
yeah,
That
gamma
was the
resistance.
story he was told. Thunderbolt Ross, that's the lie he was telling him.
Oh,
But
that's
he
right.
admits that
Okay.
to Blonsky that it was always supposed to be a weapon, but they wouldn't tell Bruce that because Bruce was a scientist. He would have been against
See, I
it.
didn't pick up on that because I think there was too many. I think there was too much time between. Oh yeah, I was doing these gamma tests to test a resistance, and then finally it's explained like 30 to 40 minutes later. I didn't make that. I didn't even make that connection. So that's why you're a better man, Josh, when it comes to
Well,
this
it's
stuff.
because I obsessively watch those movies like once a year or more. I loved the fact that in the opening credits of The Incredible Hulk, not only do we see a bit of an homage or a bit of an origin story, but we do get a very clear homage to the people who watch the Incredible Hulk TV show. Because in the TV show, Bob, I assume you remember this. The very first thing you see in the credit screen, the opening title sequence, is that green screen with the crosshair on it
Right.
over Bruce's face,
Oh
which is
yeah.
one of the things you see. And of course, the music. It's
Yeah, the music, the
the same
hitchhiking
musical
that he
theme.
does.
Yeah, yeah.
And like yeah,
Every single.
when the green whatever crosshair came across his face, all I could hear in my head was
Yeah,
just like the opening of the TV show. So
yeah. And they had more too. I mean, one of the first things you see in the movie is Bill Bixby on TV. I believe that was an episode of The Incredible Hulk, except it's only showing Bill Bixby. They couldn't have
right,
any new footage of him because he died. But and of course, it's important to note that he did not play Bruce Banner. He played David Banner
David Banner, yeah.
because because for some reason in the 70s, I don't know, Bruce was out. I don't know why,
You know what?
but I
I
guess
mean, for all we know, we talk about licensing and stuff like that. That could have
it
still
could be
been like
that.
you couldn't, it's like, very quick analogy to that is like Pierce Brosnan in the Thomas Crown Affair couldn't wear his bow tie tied because that was in his James Bond contract. He couldn't wear a
Mhm.
tied bow tie in any other, so it was always untied and just hanging there.
Yeah.
So, so it could
Yeah,
be
I don't
that
know.
they couldn't use Bruce because there could have been a licensing or issue, and they had to
Yeah, I
go
have no
David.
idea. Yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, Bill Bixby played David Banner, but the Hulk. And there were a lot, of course, at the beginning we also mentioned already that he's learning to speak Portuguese at the beginning of the movie, and then a little bit later when he's talking to that bully and he says, "Don't make me hungry."
Hmm.
And of course, that's a reference to the line that kept being replayed in the opening credits of the Bill Bixby show. Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah, yeah, and he says that to them when they find after he's getting
Yeah,
after
they're gonna
he's
beat him
getting
up.
chased and they're gonna beat him up. He's like, "Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm
Well,
angry."
he says hungry though, and they're like, "Okay," or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Looking at him like he's an idiot, and he sounds like one because he's saying, don't you wouldn't like me when I'm hungry." Wait, that's not right.
It's
But
a good it's a good opener, and it allows him to dive into the Hulk
and I
form
do,
really quickly.
yeah, and to your talking point, Matthew, that yeah, it takes place in Brazil, but I also thought it was really interesting and made for a really great set piece, putting him in a favela.
Yep. Yep. I mean, again, coming back to that, we talked about it last week where a lot of movies take place um in that time frame of the late 2000s, mid to late 2000s. It was Middle East. There was also some of those like you look at Slumdog Millionaire. I know that's not Brazil, but it's in a poorer area. It seemed like movie makers and writers like to explore those less charted territories in film with those types of settings. So I thought the favela was very nice. Um,
Favelas are a very interesting look. I love that look. It's a shame though that they kind of romanticize it a bit because favelas are not a place you want to be.
right.
They're, there's a lot of crime. They're typically, inhabited by people who don't have a lot. So, it's not a place that you want to go to visit.
Yep.
But they look really interesting. They've got a very distinctive look that I think it looks really cool. That maybe that's to me, but I like the look of it, and that's why I really enjoyed that opening chase where he's on the rooftops and then he's in a balcony and then he jumps down onto the street and there's always people around and it's very chaotic. So I thought that was a really good chase scene at the beginning.
Yep.
And is
Yep.
it right for me to give a shout out to the girl who played, what's her name? Marissa, Marina, Martina, because she
Oh,
was gorgeous.
his oh his
She
little
was
fling
gorgeous.
that he
Yeah,
liked in
I
the
mean
factory.
they barely show it. I mean, I don't even know why she's in there for the most part because she's almost like she's such a secondary character. She appears for 3 scenes.
Yep.
One scene where she's looking at him longingly, then she's being harassed by the dick, and he intervenes. Bruce intervenes, and then
Yep.
of course she helps him get away from from being immediately spotted by Blonsky and the team of what was it? The
Soldiers.
army? Yeah,
Uh yeah, I think
I
it's the
think it's
army.
the army.
Yeah,
Um
the army.
but I like how he's exposed. I thought it was a unique way to tell the world
Yeah,
that his blood's poison basically to anybody but himself. And of course
yeah.
the
Stanley cameo.
Stanley
Stanley
cameo.
cameo.
But even leading up to that, I really enjoyed watching. I mean, it's creepy as hell, but watching the blood in the bottle through that whole sequence where they show the bottle and then it gets the liquid poured into it, the drink, and then it gets bottled and it gets put into boxes, and you just see this kind of red cloud of blood tinged.
Mhm.
It's really creepy to think about that it's going out there and someone's going to drink it, but at the same time, it works. It's very effective. And then, of course, we get the Stanley cameo, which is great. Stanley is gold whenever he shows up in these movies.
Yeah,
Stanley is gold.
we didn't talk about that in Iron Man. His cameo is Hugh. Or no, is that the
Yeah.
second one?
No, yeah,
No, it's the first one.
Yeah,
Oh
it
no,
was
okay.
Hugh.
No, yeah, Hugh Hefner. Yeah,
Yeah, Hefner. And the
Yep.
second one, he's the talk show. What's his name?
Larry King.
Larry King. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
thought, the thing about the Incredible Hulk, I thought there was a lot of, you know, I mean, it was a pretty long whole sequence before he hulks out for the first
Yeah.
time in terms of like what he's doing. He's learning languages. You see him learning like breathing exercises, and he's trying to do that stuff. And um,
With that guy with the stomach.
yeah, with the stomach thing, and then he's doing he's communicating with Mr. Blue, trying to,
Mhm.
and then he tries the flower.
Right.
And
And
all
it,
that
it
other
gives you
stuff.
a
So there's
good, yeah, it gives you a good impression of him trying to beat this thing. He's not trying to
right.
control it. He's not trying to study it. He wants to get rid of it.
Right, and they did the whole like every so often they did the whole days without incident, and then it
Hmm.
had like the days and then that type of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, it worked really well. And of course, something else that I really liked was I don't know if you could say it's artistic, but it is in a way artistic that when he does finally become the Hulk for the first time, they barely show him. He's in
Hmm.
shadows almost the whole time. The only time you really get a good look at him is when Blonsky finally fires at him and the Hulk turns around. He's still completely in shadow, and then his face emerges, and of course he does the thing with the teeth. And we also hear the Hulk speak for the only time. No, not the only time, but one of the few times we hear him speak in that movie at the very beginning. You
Right.
hear him say very, very softly. It's easy to miss it, but you hear him say, "Leave me alone."
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I
was
So
thought that
not,
was
go
pretty
ahead.
good. No, no, go ahead.
I say that was not explored in the 2003 version at all. He didn't speak. Granted, that version physically was more comic book accurate in the sense that the angrier he got, the stronger he got, and
mhm.
the bigger he grew. Whereas in this one, it was just he was the same size the whole time, same strength level, despite his rage, which was part of my issue with this uh, rendition. Not that it was bad, it was just like, that was a kind of a lame change because it
I
his power is fueled by rage, you know.
yeah.
Anyway.
That's one of the things I remember learning about when I was younger. And the age old, I mean, they've been talking about this since the 50s, I think. Kids wanted to know who would win in a fight, Superman or the Hulk. And never mind the fact that Marvel and DC did have a crossover in the late 80s or early 90s, I think. It was called Marvel versus DC. And they had a fight between Superman and the Hulk, and Superman won. But a few people have said the reason Superman would beat Hulk is only if Superman beats him quickly, because the longer they fight, the angrier the Hulk would become. And the big thing about the Hulk's powers is that the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets, and there is no limit to how angry he can get. That's
Mm.
like the big difference between him and the Abomination. The Abomination is stronger than Hulk under normal, under the normal situation when he becomes the Hulk. He gets angry enough to become the Hulk, but he's still not stronger than the Abomination. And so I think they did that in the movie, but they didn't show him getting bigger. He looked the same size, but he
Yeah,
did start getting the advantage as he got angry. And of course, once the Abomination put Betty in danger, that's when
he's
Hulk snapped and he said, "Hulk smash." And that's when he got the upper hand. He was that angry that he still was the same size, but he was able to put the Abomination in a chokehold.
and I thought that was a great fight scene. I thought it was a fight scene
Yeah.
we haven't really gotten much in the MCU at that scale. Before, I mean, I guess there was only one movie before, but since then, we haven't gotten an actual, like, here's the villain, here's the hero, they're gonna duke it out and just go at it as much as they can and destroy the
I don't
city in the
know.
process. Well, but it's like,
I Yeah,
it,
I agree. Not destroying the city as much because most of the characters aren't capable of it. We didn't get city destroying really until Infinity War, for the
right,
most part,
right.
or Age of Ultron, I guess if you want.
But it
But
But
sorry.
that was a different type of hero. I mean, the Abomination and the Hulk, same type of character, opposite
Hmm.
ends of the spectrum on good versus evil, and they just go at it. I mean, granted, like you said, the Abomination's stronger, but it's an equivalent strength level. It's like watching Spider-Man fight Venom at the end of Spider-Man 3, right? It's not anything we've gotten you, the antagonist directly fighting the hero, not a group of heroes, and not in an intellectual way. You don't get that much in the MCU, and I think that it makes
No.
for a great final act. I think it's a great setting when they're in that pillared room. I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
gazebo or what, and he's
It
got
looks like
him.
it's on a roof of some
Yeah,
sort. Yeah.
Mm.
and I mean, it's pretty visceral in the sense that the Abomination uses every tool to his advantage, even his little elbow spike when he shoves it in his chest and he's
Yeah,
bleeding, and it's like, oh wow, this is pretty intense. And I don't think we get that much in the MCU. I know I said that a
not
couple times
until
now.
like it happens a little bit in The Winter Soldier, but not much. I think the
Right.
first thing I thought of was Tony Stark fighting Captain America in Civil War at the end of Civil War
Hmm.
when they're having that all-out fight.
Yep.
And after Bucky is out of commission and it's just the two of them wailing on each other.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the scope of the Incredible Hulk because neither one of them is going to destroy a building.
Right. I know Iron Man had the Ironmonger versus Iron Man fight, but again, different power scale. The Ironmonger's bigger in size, and so he has the advantage. But so Tony has to outthink him while also
Mhm.
fighting him. But it's just this, I don't know. It comes back to my original point. If we don't get the Macho Man type of superhero film anymore, and this, I
Yeah.
thought captured it well. I thought it was a great final fight, and I think that
Well,
really elevates the movie outside of its other flaws, which I would chalk up to pacing. I think it's not paced that well. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. There's certain parts that are a little bit slower than others. Bob, you were going to say something?
I was gonna say, I was thinking about the fight in this iteration because, like, I thought Liv Tyler was good as
I was about
Betty
to bring her
Ross.
up.
Yeah, yeah, she was good, and the relationship between them was good, especially the relationship between her and Hulk. I mean, you got some like Beauty and the Beast-esque like action happening there, which was, you know, kind of kicked it old school. But I think that the other thing too is when we're talking about this fight at the end is I think that the fight more than the Hulk like powering up in his rage, it really showed more heart and humanity in terms of like he had something to fight for. He was still maintaining enough of himself to be able to finish out that fight and beat the shit out of Abomination. And then and then he's got the chain and he's gonna choke him out. And then she's like, "Don't," because it's like even as
Yeah.
the Hulk, he'd be crossing a line type of thing. And and he pulls back from that, and then they have the whole crowd just kind of like staring at him, and he's looking at them, and it's kind of like you feel that shift of like, all right, they kind of see him as not just like a monster, but maybe something a little more. So,
Yeah.
um,
He
so
still
yeah, there
does
was
the really cool, like puts his foot on the abomination and
right, right, and goes
roars,
right and does his
goes
roar.
full primate for a second there.
I love that he did the clap to put the fire out on the
Yeah.
helicopter. Like
Yeah.
that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I would have changed would be the placement of him saying Hulk smash because he says Hulk smash, but then he doesn't smash anything. He does the clap. But,
I thought he says
other than
Hulk
that,
smash and then hits the ground for
Yeah.
oh
Abomination.
yeah, he kind of like he like kicks the
Yeah.
ground and it causes the abomination to kind of slip, and he drops or lets go of that pillar held on by the chain and it flies straight up and lands on
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
which is also a little bit cartoonish, but it's fine. It's a comic book movie. What do you want?
Well, I mean, using a
This
cop
ain't
car as
Shakespeare.
boxing gloves. I mean,
That was
that was
fantastic. I love
awesome.
that.
That was so cool. And
Yeah,
I like
that
this
was cool.
movie. I don't think I'd put it in the same tier as Iron Man.
I agree.
Personally,
I
I'd put
agree.
it. I think I'd put it in a B tier. Um, I think I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. Personally, that's just me. But I do like I don't know. I thought it explored Bruce Banner's not nerdy side, but science side with Mr. Blue,
Mhm.
his microscopic research at the beginning, and then he goes to the university to find his old notes and or is that to visit Mr. Blue? I can't remember.
No, they go to the
Well, no,
university
first
to visit
to get
Mr.
it.
Blue.
No,
First
no,
he
for
goes,
before that
yeah,
he
he
goes to the Virginia one where Betty works because
Right.
he
right.
needs to get his data for
Yep.
Which
Mr.
is
Blue
gone.
because he doesn't have it and it's gone and it's not even there. And then when they finally meet up, him and Liv, um, and I wanted to mention her too because you brought her up, and I wanted to mention her too because she's an important part of this movie. But when they finally get together, she's the one who has the data. She made a backup. She saved him essentially, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Important for the character because she is a strong character. But and this way, she's not just a damsel in distress. Now she's also vital. If it wasn't for her, he would not have. The movie wouldn't have been able to proceed.
Right.
She's the one who saved the data because otherwise Ross would have gotten it, the formula, and the bad guys would have won.
Right. Yeah.
So, and Liv Tyler, as you mentioned, she does a great job, but I haven't seen a movie where she doesn't. Liv Tyler is extremely talented, and I'm not just saying that because she's gorgeous, but she is. Um, I still remember at one of my jobs, I met Steven Tyler, and that was exceptionally cool because I'm a huge music fan. I love good music, and Aerosmith is one of my favorite bands. So seeing Steven Tyler is akin to seeing, I don't know, I can't even think, Jesus. So, but she's always played really good characters. I mean, I loved her in Lord of the Rings too, as Arwen.
Hmm.
Oh,
I
totally.
even loved her. A movie that's not really my, well, I enjoyed it probably more than I would have because it's a drama, and I'm not normally into dramas, but it was a drama about music, so it appealed to me, which was That Thing You Do. She was great in that too.
Yeah, that thing you
Um,
do, Jersey Girl.
mhm.
She's good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, she's a really talented actress, and I think she always does a really good job. I really like the scenes with her in the Hulk because the only thing I don't completely get is why they keep their distance quite as much as they do. I know that Bruce is, nervous the whole time that he's going to Hulk out and, hurt her. Well, I like watching the scene where they're both in bed thinking about each other, and it doesn't really resolve. It just ends, and it's almost like that scene in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom where they're lying in bed, and I'm wondering how long until they go and visit each other. And it was kind of like that. I was like, don't draw this out. You know that they're gonna get together. Might as well just do it now. But at the same time, it made sense from the point of view of, Bruce is unwilling to put her at risk and thinks that by being nearer to her, he'll be putting her at risk. It
Yeah.
just felt like a big tease, that whole scene.
It was, well, it was just build. It was the tension between them, not just sexual tension, but just, she loves him, he loves her. And,
She's with that other guy, Doc, what's his name? Doc Samson. Doc
yeah.
Samson.
And yeah, I found it interesting that it wasn't just rage. Obviously, he pulls himself back because his watch starts beeping because his heart rate's going up, and he's like, I
Yeah, later
can't.
on.
I
Yeah.
was like, well, don't get angry. You'll be fine. Just be
Yeah.
happy and get her
Yeah, you
done.
can't get
You
too
know what I mean?
excited and yeah, don't you can't get too excited and she's like not just a little bit excited.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's how that scene ends. And then it cuts right
Yeah.
there. And I was like, wow.
And then we should
Yeah.
also talk about we did a little bit mention him, but this is important too, is Tim Blake Nelson as Samuel Stearns. He plays a good eccentric doctor in
Hmm.
this, and I enjoyed that. It's especially because we see Bruce a little bit as a doctor, not so much, and we see her also a little bit as a doctor, and they're both very calm and collected, except when they're not raging out.
Well, we should talk about
And
William
then we
Hurt
see
too, as
well,
Ross.
yeah, I definitely want to talk about him in a minute because
Okay.
that's extremely important. But Samuel Stearns as this guy who thinks very highly of himself and the way he monologues to people, even Bruce and Betty think he's kind of insane,
Yeah.
which I enjoyed. Like that first scene, after they introduce him and she introduces herself and he's happy to meet her because he's heard of her, but then they go to the office when he realizes that Bruce is Mr. Green and he's like, to think that this nondescript guy would, and he's just like being overly dramatic and it's just
Right.
like, okay, dude, settle down. You're a
Right.
doctor. Act like a doctor. And they're both looking at each other like, oh my God, what did we walk into?
I was gonna say with his character too, I mean, he's eccentric in the sense that he doesn't fully think things through. And then he goes ahead and he makes the samples of the gamma radiation, which ultimately turns him into the leader, which I thought was a clever way to do that. It spills into the gash on his head and affects his
Yeah.
brain.
And you
So
see that big smile, which led, everyone who didn't even know who he was like, oh, this is going to be important sometime. And I don't think anyone knew it was going to take like how long was it?
17 years
20,
later.
17 years. Yeah. So, but I appreciated that because I loved seeing it. And that also brings us to William Hurt, who like I've always liked him. He was great in most he was a brilliant actor. I think this is true back then too, but I know it was true when I rewatched the movie a couple days ago. He plays all of his characters really well, but I especially love his portrayal of Thunderbolt Ross. I know his
Yeah.
first name is Thaddeus, but
Right.
I just call him Thunderbolt.
Well, and he comes in later on too, like you said, Civil
Yep.
War.
Yeah, he returned
Um,
in Civil War. It was a long time to wait at the time for him to return, but it was great because, as you said, a lot of people didn't really consider Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, to be part of the MCU because it was so disconnected from the rest of them. Like, if there was any doubt, this put that doubt to rest. It was the same guy, played by the same guy. It's Thunderbolt Ross
right.
as the Secretary of State.
Yeah, I think it was the Secretary of State. I
Yeah,
think.
or Defense.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it
either
was
defense or
State.
state.
But yeah, he talks about the Sokovia Accords, and he appears a couple. Well, he appears in Infinity War as well, and he's always a douche, but it's always like really good to see him because William Hurt is great. We're not, like I said, I'm not going to belabor this, but we're not going to talk about Brave New World. But I'm glad that the character is so prominent in Brave New World, and as much as I love Harrison Ford, who's one of my favorite actors, I really wish that it could have been William Hurt
Yeah.
because he would have done such an amazing job. But William Hurt sadly passed away. I'm like not speaking correctly today, and it sucks to lose him, especially right before he had this huge part.
Well, and it would have been
Right.
cool to see him in Thunderbolts as well, because
Yeah,
he creates the Thunderbolts, if I'm not mistaken, in the comic books, and
yeah,
I mean, they had to throw away that storyline, which is fine.
yeah.
Um,
They had to use what's her name, Elaine. Elaine, was that character Count de Monet. I don't know what her name is. Countess something. Countess
Yeah.
something. Um, but anyway, yeah, so my point is that really would have liked to see William Hurt in Brave New World.
Well, he's definitely more of an intense actor than Harrison Ford, in a different sense. Not that Harrison Ford's not intense, but
Yeah.
I mean, William Hurt just looks intimidating, and it would have been cool to see him as Red Hulk. I always thought that was, again, a really cool character to put
Yeah.
opposite of the Hulk. I don't know if they ever got married in the comic books, but potential father-in-law, he's fighting. That's who
Yeah.
the Hulk is fighting, is the Red Hulk, and I always thought that was a cool character. And the Red Hulk, is the Red Hulk stronger? I didn't think he
I
was.
I don't know as much about
Yeah.
the other iterations of the Hulk.
Green Hulk is generally considered stronger because his strength has no upper limit, while Red Hulk is strength is dependent on his internal heat, which they do show in Brave New
Yeah.
World.
But
So
good character. Sad to lose William Hurt.
I would have loved to see William Hurt in it because it was a meteor role. He doesn't get to play much with the character in the other movies. Thunderbolt Ross is a minor character, even though he is like one of the main antagonists in The Incredible Hulk. He still is less of a presence than he is in Brave New World.
I do think since The Incredible Hulk came out, they've absolutely ruined the character of the Hulk, minus Age of Ultron and the first Avengers movie. But post that, I mean, Ragnarok, they made him kind of silly. Uh,
Yeah,
Infinity War, he's nerfed out of the movie in 5 seconds. Like within the first 5 minutes of the movie,
I
he's
wish
gone.
that they would have explained that more. Like that's
And
something that, yeah, go ahead.
and then in Endgame, he was just, I don't know.
Smart Hulk.
I
Yeah.
don't like that character. I think that's
Professor
the
Hulk, that's comic book though.
but
It
it's
is.
the Disney-ified version of the Hulk to keep him there, big green monster, but he's also like friendly, and it's like, am I watching a Pixar movie? What's going on? I don't know.
I
I have a
agree.
problem.
I was a little disappointed, especially because I thought it was what I thought they were going to do with Infinity War and what I would have really liked is that they have Hulk fight Thanos at the very beginning, and then Hulk goes away. And I always imagined it was because Hulk was like actually ashamed of himself for losing to Thanos. Like, how can that guy defeat me? I'm Hulk bigger, Hulk better. And I would have loved to see where in Endgame to have a scene where uh, Bruce and Hulk kind of confront each other, and Hulk realizes that, he couldn't beat Thanos because Thanos is that powerful. It wasn't that the Hulk wasn't big enough or strong enough, but that he was fighting against a being that was just that powerful. And for Hulk to make a reappearance with renewed confidence. And instead they went with the smart Hulk route. And they never really addressed why Hulk wouldn't come out again in Infinity War.
Right. It
And
was
I would
just
have
that.
liked to see. Yeah.
Mhm.
He
Well, I
just
think
disappeared.
the assumption was is he was just afraid because he got his ass kicked by Thanos and he just didn't want to come out and do it anymore. So,
Yeah. And that was the impression I got, and I would have liked to see a resolution to that. And instead, I was a little bit disappointed with them going with the, Gray Hulk, Smart Hulk, because, I did want to see some kind of resolution to that where the original Hulk, comes to grip and
hmm,
and comes back more confident.
hmm.
But oh well, I'm not a writer, so
Well,
what do I know?
I'm going to springboard on the one of the topics that I wanted to talk about since we're talking
Yeah.
about the different movies is I feel like the Incredible Hulk movie has the longest running. I was trying to phrase it the way I talked to you guys about it before as we were pre-gaming the show, was that it has the longest amount of references, even into Brave New World. I mean, you get a whole movie of the guy's back as the leader, but
Yeah.
in Avengers, in Mark Ruffalo, the last time I was in New York, I broke Harlem reference to
Yeah.
that. Um, I think that it pops up, William Hurt coming back to play the role again.
Hmm.
Um, I think if you look back on it, there was quite a few references here and there with
Yeah.
the Avengers when Tony gets the little thing from Coulson and he does his little bleh, and he throws all the video images out there and we're watching clips of that. Even in She-Hulk, I think it was Tim Roth came back and his he
I
played
never
Blonsky
watched
again.
She-Hulk, but I know that he played him in Shang-Chi.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, Shang-Chi, you've got Abomination, and he's like Emil, which is his name,
Yeah.
Emil Blonsky. He's
Emil
like,
Blonsky.
and so I think that there's quite a bit of that, and I didn't do. I should have like had Chat GPT pull it up or something like that, but I kind of wanted to see like what's the most referenced movies. But I think that one between characters and people coming back and playing their original roles and that type of thing, it seems like the Incredible Hulk, this particular movie, is the one that spanned the longest, all the way up until this year. Again, the
Yeah.
same
It
actor
could
coming
be.
back and actually playing the leader.
Yeah.
Um,
It could
so
be because that movie was considered for by so many to not be part of the canon of the MCU that it was important to them to connect the two.
right, and I thought about that first, but they brought back William Hurt not just for continuity. I mean, they could have put anybody in that role, really. I mean, they didn't have to use him, and they did. And then Harrison Ford replaced him, and then they did a whole movie on that. And so that movie and the characters within that movie, not just the references to it, but the characters in that movie, I think played a larger role in moving the MCU along
Mhm.
than we maybe kind of give it credit for. Again, it was just something that kind of hit me because there was things in it where, um, I started thinking about it as things were happening, and oh yeah, he referenced that he broke. Oh yeah, that's right. Abomination fought Wong in Shang-Chi, and oh yeah, obviously William Hurt comes back as
Yeah.
Ross, and so I think that the Incredible Hulk, if I were to phrase it a different way, would be that I think it had a very it touched a lot of the MCU
It was very
over the
influential.
years. Yeah,
Yeah.
and not just like a phase one thing, and then we got phase. I mean, across all the phases up until this year.
Yeah.
I think that it had again, it's not even an impact or anything. It's just I just find it to be interesting how much it was used. Pieces of it were used, references were used, but more importantly, characters were used, and not just for cameos per se, but actually as part of the storytelling of further movies. That it was again, I just find it to be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a movie that gets referenced a lot. And it itself has lots of references in it from, the previous Hulk, the TV show um and also, having the cameo from Lou Ferrigno and
Oh yeah, Lou
you
Ferrigno
know,
is a security guard. Yeah, that was a good one.
yeah.
And I remember I think the original Hulk from 2003 also had wasn't it Ferrigno and Stan Lee as security guards, wasn't it in that one?
It's been a long time since I've seen the 2003 one.
Yeah,
Like
I
I said,
try
I
and
think it's on Netflix, and I was thinking of watching it again to compare the two, and I was like, I don't want to. I mean, I would love to watch it, but I don't want to.
I wouldn't
I
love
quote
to
Phoebe.
watch it. I'd have to be paid to watch it. I mean, $10, but it's not a lot of money, but I'd take like $10 to go watch it. They'd pay me to watch it again. But
You
anyway,
are
Yeah,
you are correct. I just Googled it.
2003
2003, Stanley and Lou Ferrigno were security
they were
guards.
security
right.
guards.
They were security guards, and then in this one in 2008. So I mean, it's funny. Only 5 years later, and we've got the Incredible Hulk. And I think that again, we had Iron Man, and they were probably being made at the same time. So we didn't have that. We didn't have Captain America. Clearly, the super soldier serum that they were making and
Mhm.
he gives to Blonsky, who becomes Abomination in the Incredible
Yeah.
Hulk, was,
Yeah, an
and they
attempt to
talk about it World
recreate.
War II.
Yeah,
Yeah, they talk about it being made in World War II. It was,
they were
if Incredible
attempting
Hulk
to
had been made,
recreate it, but they couldn't
right,
do it without Erskine, so they ended up
right.
with the Abomination instead.
Right. And so I think if Incredible Hulk had been made like just a couple years later, we'd probably get a little more. Obviously, those references would be a little bit better. But I think ultimately with Incredible Hulk, it was like, listen, let's go back to not just the Bill Bixby version, but let's just get back to basics. He's a
Yeah.
tortured guy. It's a Jekyll and Hyde story, in essence, is really what the Incredible Hulk is. And let's go back to that, throw a bunch of homage. That's what people want to see. I feel like I remember with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, the first one, and they did the first trailer, and Sonic looked so
Mm. Yeah.
shitty. And everybody panned it, and they're like, Sonic looks like ass. And they're like, okay, you know what? We're gonna take care of you guys. We love the fans. I feel like Incredible Hulk, not quite like that, but I think with the Incredible Hulk, they kind of went back and looked at what everybody said and was like, listen, people want to see this. Let's craft this into the story and tell the story of the hitchhiking guy and that he was in the thing and in tie it into what we already, because I mean even in 2008, I mean there were still plenty of people who are coming up to, I mean, really, Gen Xers is, to me, was the target audience, especially when they kicked off the MCU. I mean, we were all like,
Yeah.
we had
And we
grown up
grew
with
up
that. That the
with
90s were
the
a
with the Bill
huge.
Bixby. So
Yeah, and so it was like I think they did. I think it was the right way to go with it. Again, not a super deep story as we've already talked about, but the plot was enough, and we got to know where he was at and how he was, the kind of the tortured thing, and he's trying to stay away from everybody, which they touched on um, in Avengers when Black Widow goes to get the Hulk and he's in when he go gets Bruce Banner and he's in another country and he's trying to do doctory stuff
yeah.
to try and help people and he's like, oh,
But
you
we
brought me
never
to the
lost you. Yeah.
yeah, she's like, we never lost you. We just kept our distance. And he's like, oh, you brought me to the edge of the city. Good, good idea. And
Yeah.
then um, he tests her out. And I still, coming back to something Leah said earlier, now that we're like, I'm talking about it, is, yeah, it would be kind of cool to have uh, a Hulk movie, but I don't, just because we can get Mark Ruffalo in a Hulk movie, but then that would eliminate this Incredible Hulk movie in essence. And I don't know if we necessarily need it because we've had him in a whole bunch of different movies in different ways. So,
I know
But I
um,
do
there's.
I sorry.
Go ahead,
I
Josh.
I do like something that you said that I think this movie was placed perfectly like where it should be is because you were saying how it would hit differently if we saw that point where like Thunderbolt was talking about this super soldier serum, and if we had seen it a few years later after Captain America, it might have hit differently. But I think that was part of what I liked because I'm a big fan of Captain America. He's one of my favorite characters. So anytime they referenced him before he showed up really got me excited. So this movie, even the first time I saw it, which was in the theaters during its initial release, day one, um, when he mentioned the super soldier serum, I immediately went, Captain America. All right, Captain America. And I got excited. And then Iron Man 2, what is this? And he holds up the shield.
right,
And
yeah,
I practically had a freaking heart attack right there in the studio, or in the theater. I was just like, oh my God, it's the shield.
yeah,
So, so they kept teasing Captain America, and then they finally came out with the movie, and it felt like an interminable wait.
Yeah.
Um,
it did.
so
I do find it interesting that they didn't space out Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk films more. It was bam bam, and then you still get the RDJ appearance post credits.
Hmm.
I guess he's uncredited. I was just Googling that.
Yeah, I don't think he was credited in that movie, but everyone knew him. So
Yeah, and so I mean that helped tie it into the MCU as well. Him even being in it for 10 seconds.
yeah.
Um,
But it was great because it was a Nick Fury moment right out of the end credit scene of Iron Man.
right,
We got the same thing. It probably should have been a post credit scene, but they decided to put it before the credits and not have a post credit scene. It's
right.
one of the only movies, at least at that point, it was one of the only MCU movies that did not have a post credit or mid credit scene. There have been a few since then, but far fewer than ones that do have them.
Right. And but it was still cool to see like, oh, here we go. We're actually doing it and we're not
Yeah,
kidding
it's
around.
the same thing where, yeah, what if I told you we're putting together a team?
It was a good hype moment. But I do find
And
it
I,
interesting that Iron Man didn't get its own year to stand on its own two legs. The Hulk came out the same
yeah,
summer, and then there was nothing for 2 years. We didn't get anything to Iron Man 2. I thought that was
yep,
interesting that Hulk was not a 2009 release,
yeah,
rather than an '08 release. And then
yeah.
it became the two movies a year cadence again, with Captain America and Thor.
Even
So.
three for a while.
Yeah, yeah, some of them were a bit more ambitious. So, um,
That's
I was
Bob's
having a
way of
ball.
spinning that. Yeah, they were
I
being
was
very ambitious. I'm like,
I was having
"Eh."
a blast, to be honest, at that point because I was so excited for every Marvel movie. So when they were coming out three times a year, I was just jazzed every single time. I took my daughter to see him. I was excited with every single one of them, and I was never disappointed right up through 2019. I loved all of them.
but no, I mean ambitious in the sense that like you don't get a whole lot of movie studios going, here's three a year. You get
Yeah,
like three movies over the course of 3 years, like Lord of the Rings, or
yeah,
Star Wars is three movies every three
three
years.
3 years. Yeah.
And it's kind of aggressive. We'll call it aggressive, not ambitious.
Well, it also, because with Lord of the Rings, they were shooting all three pretty much
At the
back
same
to
time.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why they were able to release them once a year for three
Hmm.
years in a row. Whereas Star Wars, they would finish one movie and then they'd start working on another. And it takes roughly, 3 years. And
And we got
that's if they're rushing, it takes 3 years to put together a good movie.
Well, we got the beautiful holiday special in between New Hope and
Hmm.
Empire Strikes Back, so I love that
Oh.
thing. It's so bad it's good.
So I don't know if anyone else has anything else to say. I'm inclined to say we've talked everything there is to say about this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I don't know if I'm qualified to rank it like you did, Matthew, but I do like it. It's not my favorite, definitely not. It's probably not more than 50%. Of all of the Marvel movies, it's probably in the latter half, but that's not to say I don't love it. I mean, I've reiterated this over and over again. I love every single Marvel movie. I really enjoyed it.
Well, like I said, I think that watching it now, 17 years later, it's almost like a better movie after not just the MCU, but just in terms of quality of the movie and how they put it together.
By
It's like
itself.
just it's a
Yeah.
solid, yeah, it's a pretty solid. Yeah, there was a little bit of pacing issues, but ultimately it was a solid movie. And I think it's even a little more solid with how movies are made today. I
Yeah.
give it a
Matthew, and
6, 7 out of 10.
ugh,
I put it
you're off the show.
I've said
Whatever.
I've
Stop
said
being skibbity.
no, I agree. I think it's a great movie. Pacing issues. I think there's some dragging in the middle for sure after he hulks out at the university. I mean, I'm not qualified to rank Josh, but I like to give people scores to listen to because that's how
Actually, I
I.
think that you are completely qualified to rank. I shouldn't have said that. I'm not qualified. I just don't really have a ranking.
It's definitely a very middle of the pack MCU film, even to this day, even though it's aged well. I put it probably smack dab.
MCU, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's something you said there that I think is kind of a caveat. As an MCU film, yeah. But if we got this versus the 2003 version,
Oh, it's superior, but
Oh yeah.
we're talking about the MCU. I put it's probably smack dab in the middle. I think a lot of people agree online. I think I saw one time they're like, is it better or worse than the Hulk? I think there was another movie they used, but this would be my bar of like, is it better or worse than the Incredible Hulk movie? And if it's worse, it goes in the latter half, and if it's better, then it's in the upper half. So
Yeah.
I'd probably give
yeah,
it anywhere from a 7 to an 8 out of 10.
Well, that said, I think that we have nothing else to say, but I'm looking forward to continuing our epic journey into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Next week, we will be talking about Iron Man 2. If you like it or don't like it, I don't care, because you're valid. Your opinion is valid, as always, on this show. And that said, make tomorrow better than yesterday.